Now, we'll work on two topics which are really important for the user experience of your hotel booking bot: filtering results incrementally and handling negation. The first part is to add some memory to your bot so that your users can narrow down their search incrementally. The process of collecting the user's preferences during a conversation is called slot filling. Here's an example. The user says, "I'm looking for a cheap hotel in the north of town." The bot responds and says, "I'm sorry, but I couldn't find anything like that." The user responds with, "Okay, well, what about mid-range ones?" The bot then responds with, "Here is a mid-priced hotel in the north of town." It would be annoying for your user if they had to specify the northern part of town again in the second message. So how do we do this? To add a basic version of this memory, we can save parameters in a dictionary, so long as it's defined in the right scope. The params variable should be outside the scope of the respond function and passed to it each time a message comes in. We modify the respond function to return both the response message and an updated parameter dictionary. The saved parameters include the user's preferences. For example, if they've already said that they're looking for somewhere cheap, we want to save price range equals low in the params dictionary. One tricky thing can be deciding when to wipe the memory of your bot and let your users start over. You'll have to choose what makes sense for your application. A natural thing you'll also see is that people will tell you what they don't want. This especially happens in response to suggestions that your bot makes. Here's an example. User says, "Where should I go for dinner?" The bot responds with, "Well, what about Sally's sushi place?" The user then says, "No, I don't like sushi." And then the bot responds with, "Okay, what about Joe's Steakhouse?" In these exercises, you'll use a super simple approach that works for the most obvious cases your bot is likely to see, but is in no way a general approach. In general, negation is a tricky topic in NLP, and will only go for the low-hanging fruit. You will split up your sentence into phrases and see which entities have the word not in front of them. We'll also look for its contraction, N''T. This catches simple negations like "not sushi" or "I don't want sushi," but would fail on cases like "I would rather skip dinner than eat sushi," or "I hate sushi," etc. Here's an example. We start by creating a spacey document from the phrase "not sushi, maybe pizza." We create a list called indices, which contains the index of the tokens that correspond to the entities. In this case, sushi is the second token in the document and has index 1 because lists are 0 indexed. We initialize two empty lists, one for normal entities and one for entities which we think are negated. We then iterate over the entity indices. We extract the part of the phrase just before the entity, starting from index 0 for the first entity, and afterwards starting from the previous entity. We can recreate the phrase by using the format method and indexing the spacey document. We then use an if-else statement. If the word "not" appears in this part of the message, we assume that entity is negated. And we add it to the negated entities list using the list's append method. Otherwise, we add it to the list of regular entities in the same way. Now it's your turn to implement slot filling in your virtual assistant.